Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this series of lessons, we are going to look at advanced features in Excel, starting with the if function. The if function allows you to tell Excel what to indicate in a particular cell or group of cells if certain conditions are met. It's hard to describe in abstract. You will see it as we work on this. Before we do that though, let me quickly describe the data we have on screen. So this is treasure notes sales for the month of April, and each of the salesperson, I, Mario, Estacho, and so on, have their weekly sales from week 1 to 4 listed here. So the first thing we're going to do is to calculate the sum total of their sale. How much did each of these people sold in total, and after that we're going to calculate the overall total sales for all the salespeople. We're also going to calculate the average sales for all the salespeople, and then we're going to see if each of the salespeople met the target of $40,000, the monthly goal of $40,000. So if they do, we'll tell Excel to indicate that here. That's when we use the if function. If they do meet the target, then we're going to indicate here how much they are receiving as part of the commission. The commission rate is 5%. Once we've done all that, then we're going to take on the last task to show how much each person received. There's a team bonus commission of $600 per person. We are going to indicate if the team actually made that cutoff. They can only do that if the department as a whole have a total sale of at least $220,000 and an average sale of $9,500 or more. Okay, so now that we've described the data, so let's get into it. Now first, let's start with calculating the totals for each of the salespeople. For those of you that have seen our previous video, you recall that to calculate the totals is actually very easy. You can select all the cells where you want to calculate. You can use the auto sum, which is also in the formula bar as well. So let's do that, and then you see the calculation. It's actually quite easy, but let's undo that. I'm going to show you a different way of doing this. I'm going to show you the define name feature. The define name feature allows you to substitute different set of data with a particular name. For example, instead of telling Excel to calculate cell B5, C5, D5, and E5, you just tell Excel to calculate the totals for Mario, right? So there's no need to deal with different data in specific. You just tell Excel, tell me what the total of I, Mario is. So in order to be able to tell Excel that this group of cells should now be known as I, Mario, you have to highlight the cells and then go to the define name feature under the formula tab, define name, click define name, and you can see here that it is already selected. The name is I, Mario, and the scope for what is the scope? The scope is the extent to which this feature, this I, Mario, will be used in Excel. Is it just for this workbook, or is it only when you use the if function or any of the other functions? So for us, we're going to leave it at the default as just for this workbook. And now you can see refers to where do you want, which cells particularly do you want to be referred to as I, Mario. So it's equals to if function, and it gives you this set of data here. Okay, so let's okay that. Now if I click on the cell F5 and click on the equal sign, sum, I'm going to double click on that, and then I'm going to go to the formula bar and find use in formula. If I click on the drop down, you see I Mario there, because that name has been defined. And click on that, enter, and there you have the total amount for I Mario. So do we have to do that for each and every one of these salespeople, for example? Not really. We can if we wanted to. Let's do one more actually to make that process a little bit more easier. So let's do a statue as well. So we select from, we click and highlight cell B6 to E6, and again we go to the formula bar and click on define name, and Excel automatically picks up on that and tells us that this belongs to a statue, and the scope is going to be on that workbook. If we wanted to put a comment here, we could, but we don't have to. And under the refers to, it tells us the cells that has been selected. Okay, so we're going to click OK. Now if we click the equal sign and type in the sum function, double click on that just to open the parentheses, then if we go to use in formula, we're going to find a statue there. So let's click on that, and now you see it highlighted. If we click enter, we have the totals, the total sales for S statue. That's how to do it one at a time. Now we're going to do it all the remainder salespeople at the same time. This time we're going to select the name. Remember when we did this first, we only highlighted the cells with the data, sales figures. Now we're going to select this whole set of data, including the names of the salespeople, because we are trying to define more than one name or more than one group of cells for more than one person. So we're going to select all of them, including the names of the salespeople, and we're going to use, instead of define name, we're going to use create from selection. Okay, so click on that, and then it's asking us create names from values in the left column. The left column is where we have the names of the salespeople. Okay, so we're going to click OK. Notice seems to happen, but that's not true. Something actually did happen. We'll see that in a second. So let's again calculate the total sale for each of these staff people that we just created that we just defined their names. So again, we click the equal sign, the sum, and then double click on the sum to open the parentheses, and then go to use the formula. Now let's see if we're going to find E bright there. Yes, E bright is right there. So select it and we'll click enter. We do that for Y meter, equal sign, sum, double click to open parentheses, formula tab, use the formula, and we'll find Y meter. So click on it, enter. Equal sign, sum, double click on it, and we go to formula tab, using formula, and we're looking for T Adler. Click on it and enter. So the last one, I'm going to leave that up to you to do. So you complete that and then meet me on the other side. Okay, so welcome back. So now we have done all the calculations, the sum total for each of the salespeople. Now we're going to do the overall total sales for all the salespeople, and that will be in cell F12. All right. In order to do that, it's simple. Now we'll do the equal sign, sum, as you remember, and then we double click to open parentheses, and then we click and select all the cells with the totals for all the salespeople, and then click the enter key. So total sales for all the salespeople is 229,712. The next thing is to calculate the average. The process is similar. Equal sign, average, double click on it, and then we are going to select this whole data point, this whole sales, weekly sales for all the salespeople, and then we're going to click enter. Now we have the average. All right. Okay, so that's done. Now the next goal is to look at the sales target. Do each of the staff people, each of the sales people meet the sales target? Okay, in the next video, we're going to tell Excel to indicate if each of these sales people actually met the sales target. Meet me on the other side. Okay, welcome back. In previous videos, we actually calculated the total for all the salespeople, especially as well as the specific sale for each of the salespeople. Now that we know what each one of these people sold for the 4 weeks, the question now is, did they meet the actual sales goal for the month? So in order to answer that question, we are going to tell Excel to tell us the answer to that question on this column, on column H. For example, did I, Mario, meet the sales target, the sales goal for the month? Just by looking at it, you can tell that is true. Yes, I, Mario, did sell $40,345, which is more than the monthly goal of $40,000. But we want the process to be automated, and to do that, we're going to use the if function. So in order to do that, we're going to click on the cell where we want the formula to be, and we're going to click on the insert function and find the if function. Double click, click OK, and then you're going to have this function arguments box open. Let's put that here for example, and here is asking us what the logical test is. What is a logical test? A logical test is any value or expression that can be evaluated to be true or false. For example, which value do we need to evaluate to see if this is true or if this is false? So the value that we have to evaluate is the total sales for each of the salespeople in comparison with the monthly goal. Okay, so which means we are going to say we're going to click on cell F5 and then hold down our shift key and type the greater sign on the keyboard, and also type on the equal sign, and then we're going to click on cell I2, which contains the monthly goal. So essentially what we're saying here is cell L5 is the value in cell L5, which is 40,345, is it greater than or equals to the value in cell I2? The answer is yes here, as you can see, because 40,345 is obviously greater than 40,000. So Excel tells us it's true here. Okay, now that we know that it's true, now that we have that value, the logical test, now that we have that test indicated, if it is true, what should we do? If it is true, for us, we can do anything here. We can type in celebrate, you can type in yippee, but for us, we're just going to type in simple yes. But remember, you can't just type in yes, you have to put it in quotation. So, okay, make it properly done. Okay, and what if it's not true? If it's not true, then type in 0. Because 0 is a number, we don't have to put the quotation around it. So as you can see here, if the value is yes, you type in yes. Excel recognize that that's yes, so indicates yes. And if the value is 0, it's 0. So the formula result, this show tells you if the formula result, if the formula is okay. And as you can see here, it says yes. One thing I did not describe, I don't know if I described the value if true, what it means. This is just to tell you if the value if true section is to tell you that if the conditions up here is met, if it is true, this is what you write, this is what you indicate. If it is false, this is what you indicate. Okay? All right, so let's click OK. So clearly, as you can see here, the value is true because 40,345 $40,345 is more than $40,000. All right, so in previous videos we talked about using the autofill. Could we do the same here? Maybe. So let's give that a try. So we're going to autofill the rest. Unfortunately, it did not work. You can see here 33,475. Excel is telling us that it is greater than 40,000, which by my count, that's not true. Okay, so something is definitely wrong here. How about we click on the formula, the cell containing the formula we created that we know to be correct, and we're going to go to the formulas tab again and find trace precedence. If we click on trace precedence, it tells us what we're doing. It's telling us that the precedence is cell F5 right here and cell I2. Okay, so that's good. How about the next one? Let's try the next one. Trace precedence. Well, it's telling us that the cell with the values are cell F6, which is okay, and cell I3 right here. That is not right. This should always reference cell I2 and not move downward. Let's try the other one and see what's happening here. As you can see, this is a problem. So we've run into this problem before in previous videos where we use absolute referencing. If you haven't done that, please go back to previous videos and then check that out. So we're going to remove the arrows and click on the initial cell that we had the correct formula, and then go to the formula bar to see. You can see here where it says I2 that it is not absolutely referenced. So what we're going to do is to click on that I2 and then click the F4 button to absolute reference it. We can do that, or we can put a $sign before the I and put a $sign before the 2. By that, we just wrap the I2 with $sign. But that's tedious, especially if you have that's a tedious process. The easy way to do it is to just click on it and click on F4, and as you can see, $sign before I and $sign before 2. Okay, that. So what that means now is that this this monthly goal, this I2, is going to be referenced whenever we're dealing with any of the other staff members. So if we autofill now, it should work. There you go. As you can see, 40,000 plus is exceeds the target. 33,000 plus does not, so you have 0. 37 does not. $37,000 does not. 40,705 does, yes. 34,000 no. 42,000 yes. So this is working for us now. Okay, so the next step is to calculate the commission rate. Now that we know that some of these people actually made the target and some did not, how much will each person make? Remember, not everyone is going to make money here, but we have to tell Excel that only if somebody makes the monthly goal of $40,000 and exceed it, then they will get a commission rate of 5%. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, in order to do that, we're going to click on the cell for each of the salespeople, and we're going to click on and we're going to select the if function by clicking on the insert function. And for the logical test, we are going to say if H5 is equals yes, which is true, then the value is going to be F5 multiplied by 5%. If false is going to be 0. So what we say here is that if H5 is yes, if this salespeople meet the sales target, then multiply their total sales by 5% so they can get a commission of 5%. All right. If they don't meet if it's false and they don't meet the goal, then indicates 0. So let's OK that. All right. So let's use autofill to see the rest of the value. That's correct. All right, so we've been able to calculate the commission rate as well as the sales target. So how do we even know this is working? If I select, let's say for example, Estacho did not meet the target, but if by whatever magic, or if we use this as a template later for maybe the month of May, and Estacho now sells, let's say, $20,000 in week 3, you can see that everything changes. Estacho meets the sales target for sales target now for the $1,975, and he is getting a commission. Let's undo that. The same thing with eBright. So let's say eBright barely missed it. So let's say for the second week they sold $15,000. There you can see that these changes as well. Okay. All right. So that's how to make that calculation. The next and final task here is to do something called a compound or a nested formula to calculate 2 logical tests. It requires 2 logical tests because we are given 2 conditions. 1, the department as a whole must have a total sales of at least $220,000. That's one condition, and the other condition is that they have to have an average sale of $9,500 before each person can get $600 as a team bonus. All right. So in order to do that, we're going to use our insert function to insert the if function. However, this time around, we need a function within a function. If this if function only allows for 1 logical test, but we need to have 2 logical tests to account for the total sales and the average sale. So one logical test here is not good enough. So we're going, instead of typing any value here, we're going to type in the AND function, which allows us to have more than 1 logical test. Okay, and open parentheses. If you now look at the formula bar that up here, you see that it has given us the AND function nested within the if function. So in order to call up this AND function, whatever you do not click OK here. Just go ahead and go to the formula bar and click on the AND function, and then you have the AND function argument, with 2 logical tests initially shown. So the AND function gives us the opportunity to enter more than 1 logical test, something which the if function does not. So now, what is the first logical test? The first logical test is total sales greater than $220,000. So we say F12 is greater or equals to 220,000. Okay, that seems to be true. And then the second one is the average sale more than 9,500. F13 greater than or equals to 9,500. That seems to be true. If you notice here, you can enter up to 255 conditions. That's amazing. Whereas in the if function, you can only enter 1 logical test or one condition. All right, so we only need 2 logical tests, which we've already entered. Now, so what do? Do we click OK now? No, we go back and click on our if, we go back to the formula bar and click on the if function. We have a compound logical test here now. So if this compound logical test, if this is true, if these multiple conditions, if they're all met, which you can see they are met here, so what happens? That is value if true. So what do we do then? We are going to say, we can type in whatever we want here. So for me, I'm going to type commission paid. Remember, always with the quotation, commission, or just say pay commission or pay bonus, whatever you want. And if false, quotation, no commission. Okay, and now we can enter we can press the OK button now. All right, so you can see now that looking at the cell I-12, that the result is for each of the employees to be paid their commission, because that's the team bonus commission, because they did meet or exceed the 2 conditions listed here. So what happens, for example, if they did not? So let's try and say maybe Mario did not sell anything in week 2. Maybe they were sick, and as you can see, the average decreases and none of the team members will get a commission. It says no commission. All right, so let's undo that. This is exactly how you use the if function. There's so many other ways that you can use this. You can use your imagination and things that allows for condition, and when those conditions are met or not, what you should ask Excel to do. This is always a very interesting function in Excel. All right, so now that we've done with this, so please do meet me on the other side, play with this a little bit more, and get your hands a little bit more refined, get your skills a little bit more refined, and then meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this particular lesson, we are going to look at how to calculate the days, number of days given to date parameters. For example, here, let me just use what I have on the screen. We have these companies: Toronto Hydro, Freedom Mobile, Amazon Inc., Curacos Digital, and TD Bank. Let's say that you have these various accounts and you receive bills from these companies. Now, how do you determine how many number of days your bill for each of these company is overdue, assuming that you don't pay them right away? right? Let's say for whatever reason you were on vacation, then you came back, and this is what you are confronted with. These are the bills you received, and these are the due dates. How do you calculate the number of days they've been overdue? So the way to do that is to first indicate or identify the current date, today's date. How do you get that? To get down today's date, you need to hold down your control key and press the key with the semicolon, and that will give you today's date. And now today is May the 8th, 2022. So now to calculate the days, the number of days that these bills are due, what you have to do is to click on the cell where you want that information to be, and if you press the equal sign, and now what you have to do is to subtract the current date from the due date. So equal sign, I'm going to click on the current date, which is C1, minus subtract B5, which is the due date of your bill. Okay, because I know that I am going to autofill the rest, I'm going to make sure I absolutize C1 by pressing the F4 key. If I click enter now, it tells me that my bill for Toronto Hydro has been due for 10 days. Okay, I can autofill now and it would work, but I like to show you one more example for the sake of clarity, as I like to do when we have many items. So again, I'm going to select the cell, and I'm going to click on the equal sign and click on the current date, and I'm going to subtract the Freedom Mobile due date from that, which is in B6, and I'm going to absolutize using the F4 key for the C1. Okay, and there we go. So now I can autofill the rest, now that I know that you are familiar with how to do this. So now I autofill the rest, and this is what I've got. So TD Bank is only 3 days due, and oh my god, Amazon and Coracos are going to be so mad at me. 32 days and 45 days respectively. But there we go. That's how to calculate the number of days that bills are due, or for any other purpose where you want to determine the dates or the days in between two dates. Okay, now the last thing I want to quickly show you here is how do we determine the number of days you've been alive, that is your age, from your date of birth. Given your date of birth, how do you know how many days have you been alive, and what age are you? Okay, so the first information we need is your birthday. So I'm going to use a random birth date. I'm going to go with September 10, 2012. Okay, that September 10, 2012. Okay, and let's add one more day. How about August 5, 2003. Okay. All right, so now for these two dates, these two birthdays are what we're going to use for this practice. So let's start with the first one. The first one is you do the same thing you do with all formula entry. You enter the equal sign and you click on the current date, and then you subtract that, or you subtract the date of birth from the current date. And if we click OK now, we get that this person, the first person here, was born on has spent 3,527 days on Earth. So how do we know how old they are in terms of age? Okay, to do that, we are going to click the equal sign, and we are going to select the cell containing the number of days they've been alive, and we're going to divide that by 365. If we have to take the leap year into account, we're going to say 365.25. okay, if we okay that, we see that this person is 10 years old. Okay, so take your time to create another date of birth here, and then calculate the number of days since the person was born, and then calculate their current age. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to look at Vlookup. Vlookup is very popular. It's a very popular Excel feature. It stands for vertical lookup, because what that means is that you can use one of the numbers, which is the leftmost number, in this case the ID number, to find any other, to output any other number to the right. You can use the ID number 2154, for example, to find the first name, the last name, the branch, the email, and so on and so forth. So it's a vertical lookup, right? So how do we do this? So here at the top here, this is our table, this is our lookup table. For each of these sections, we can actually impute the formula. So whenever we change this number here to reflect any of these employee numbers, it will give us the information that we have here. So let's do that. Let's click on the cell for the last name. That's where we're going to impute our data. So, and go to Formulas tab and click on Insert Function. We find Vlookup, click OK, and it's asking us now, what is your lookup value? What value are you looking up? Where would that be? So the lookup value is going to be the employee ID here. Okay, I'm going to absolute reference that with the F4 key. What is the table array? The table array is all this table, or the database that is going to be looked up by Excel. So from here to the right to hourly pay and down. That is the table array. Again, we're going to absolute reference this. And what column index? The output number, the column index is the column number in the table array for which the matching value should be returned. Where is which column? What is the number from the left that we are looking for? So we're looking for the last name, and from left to the right, the last name is number 3. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to enter 3 here. And what is the range lookup? The range lookup is the logical value to the closest match in the first column, sorted in ascending order, true or false. So essentially it's asking us, do you want a relative value? Let's say, for example, if I type in 2154 and it doesn't exist, should I give you something like 2155 or 2157? The answer is no. So I'm going to say, give me 0 or give me nothing if you cannot find what I'm looking for. And to do that, I'm going to enter false here. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. Right about that, we have Mario as the last name here, and if we look at 2154, it says Mario. How about we change this to let's try to see this is working, and maybe change this to 2156, and then we have Tacho. Okay, so let's return to 2154. So it's working. So what about the first name and the branch name and the pay? We can do that for all of them, right? We can autofill, and then unfortunately when we autofill, there is a problem. It doesn't Mario is not the first name, neither is the branch name or the pay rate. So if we click on this, you can see what the problem is when we look at the formula bar. The formula bar keep referencing column 3, which is the last name. That's why you have Mario there. So in order to change that, for first name will be column 2. So we're going to change 3 to 2 and enter. That's why we have Ivy. And Mario, the branch number, the branch is what column? 1, 2, 3, 4. The branch is column 4, so we're going to change 3 to 4. Enter. And the pay rate is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The pay rate is 9. So if we click on that, click on the pay rate and change the column number to 9. Enter. And then you see that it's $14. So there you have it. What we have here is the different ID number returning outputs looking at the vertical information that we have here. So let's change the employee ID to something else. Let's say 2399. 2399. Enter. And 2399 is Ahmed Ado, and the branch is BV, and it's making $70.50. All right. So the last one or two, what if we have a number that doesn't exist, an employee number that does not exist? What happens then? So let's try that. Let's say 3,000. You can see that it's telling us that this not applicable. All this is good for us because we understand the data, but the problem is if you send this information to someone who doesn't understand what's going on, they may not really know what's happening here. So we can change this to something more meaningful, right? And in order to do that, we can tell Excel that if there's an error like this, show something that will tell it to show. For example, if there's an error, instead of showing number not applicable, you can say employee does not exist, so that at least someone who's looking at this data can look at it and say, okay, I know what's going on here. So in order to do that, we use something called the if error function. We click on the equal sign, between the equal sign and the Vlookup sign, and type in if error. Okay, open bracket. So click on the if error, just click in there, and then click on the insert function, and this dialog if error function argument box will come up. So type in what you want to type here. You can say, as I said before, employee does not exist. Okay, don't forget to put the quotes, to wrap it with a quotation, and we click OK, and that is what we get here. Hello, welcome to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to continue to look at Vlookup. Specifically, we're going to look at Vlookup range. All right, so let's get started. Let's click on cell C4 and go to our formulas tab and find the insert function on the left hand side. Let's click on that. We're going to require the Vlookup function. Let's click on that and OK. And here we are going to enter, under the lookup value, we are going to enter the value that the sales value, which is this. Just to reiterate, the lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table and can be a value, a reference, or a text sharing. So we're not really using the names, we're using the sales figures. Okay, so this will be our leftmost column. So I'm going to click on this for the lookup value. So what about the table array? The table array is the table where we are looking for the data, is the data table essentially, and this is the data table right here. It's always important to make sure that we absolute reference this. So let's highlight that and click the F4 key to absolute reference that. And now the next question is, what table are we, what is the column index? What is the column number that we want the output information to be? Reading from here, it says the column index number is the column number in table array from which the matching value should be returned. The first column of the values in the table is column 1. So where is the table that we want this value here to be returned? This is the table right here, and the first column is column 1. So what is our column number that we're looking? We're looking for the bonus column number. So that will be 1, 2. So here we're going to enter 2. And the range lookup tells us if we are to get exact match or an approximate match. Exact match is that, for example, if our sales value is, if our sales is 1,000, then they get a bonus of $20. If it's 1,500, they get a bonus of $40. However, what if it's 1,100, as is the case here? There is no 1,100 in the table. So let's see what happens if we say we want exact match. Only if the sales here matches the sales here, that's when you output a bonus. So let's do that, and to do that we need to enter 0 or false. Okay, so let's okay that. Voila, this is what happens when you do that, because we told Excel that we are only looking for exact match. However, there is no exact match here because there is no 1,100 on this table, so the output is an error. We can change that. The way to change that is to click on the formula again, click on Vlookup, and then click on this insert function, and that brings back your Vlookup function argument. So instead of entering 0 here, we're going to enter 1, or you can also enter true to get an approximate match or a close match, so that an output can be returned. So let's click OK. There you go. So now with 1,100 here, the closest match is 1,000. So that's why there's a bonus of $20 here. Okay. All right. So that is how to get this done. The rest of it, we can decide not to do that, but let's do one more just for the sake of clarity. So I'm going to click on cell C5 and go to the formulas tab and insert function, Vlookup, and again we are going to the value here is the lookup value is B5 and the table array. Let's click on that, select the table array, and the column index again is index column number 2, 1, 2, and the range lookup is going to be 1 because we're looking for close match, not an exact match. We'll click OK, and then 1,200 also returns a bonus of $20. Now let's autofill the rests and see what happens. Okay, there seems to be an error here. So what is the error? Let's figure that out. Okay, so what is the problem of this? Where did we go wrong? Let's check the first one and see. You can see that in the first one we knew what we were doing at the time. We were able to, we actually absolute reference the table array, and if we check the second one, we did not do that. That's where our problem lies. So we're going to click on Vlookup, insert function, and the table array we are going to absolute reference it with by selecting it and pressing the F4 key. Let's OK that. All right, now if we use the autofill, this should work now. So there you go. So this works now. All right, so that is how to use the VLOOKUP. But the reason I'm showing you this actually to get us to the actual lesson of this video, which is the lookup range. Okay. All right, so we've seen how the exact using the lookup range works, either by using the exact match or by using the closest match or an approximate match. The next lesson is going to be on what if we have a situation where we have two types of bonuses. We have the regular bonus and the holiday bonus, as we actually did have here, but we're going to deal with that. How do we know? How does Excel know when to output the regular bonus or when to output the holiday bonus? Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit larger. So to continue this lesson, we're going to tell Excel to select the specific bonus for each of the individual. In the last lesson on this, we only selected the regular bonus, but now we're asking Excel to output different values if it's a regular bonus or if it's a holiday bonus. So in that case, we're going to use a function, the if function. To get the if function, we're going to go to the Formulas tab and click on Insert Function and OK. And our logical test will be if C12, let's click on that. If C12 is equals to regular, then what value if true? If this is true, then VLOOKUP open parenthesis VLOOKUP value, which is B4, and the table array, in this particular table, which is the table array, select all and absolute reference F4. We don't make that mistake again. And the column index for regular, which is regular bonus, will be 2, and the range lookup, because we are looking for closest match and not an exact match, will be 1. Okay, so now don't close this, don't click OK. We are not done yet. So now we'll go back to the if function, and we see now that we have our formula here for the VLOOKUP. We could do the same thing again for the value if false. If false, we just use the holiday, which is column 3. But in order to save ourselves some time, we're going to copy all of this and paste here. And the only thing we need to do here is to change the column index, which is this 2 here, to holiday if false, which is 3. So if this is not regular, that is if false, then we use the holiday index. Okay, so this is where we are now. So now we can click OK, and here we have $20. For 1,100 we have $20. It is the closest match. All right, how about for, so what do we do now? Do we do the exact same thing for all the other salespeople? Well, the answer is not yes. The answer is that we could use autofill. So let's autofill this and see. There's no match here. For example, 1,200 is giving us $40 under regular, so that shouldn't be. So what is the problem? So let's again click on our first cell here and see what's going on. We're referencing C12, which is great. I already see the problem. We ought to have absolute reference this so that they keep using C12, which is this cell here. So let's see what happens in C5. Right, C5 is using C13 here. There's nothing there. And C6 is using C14, and so on and so forth, right? So the way to do this is to go back to this cell here and then click on C12 and absolute reference that with the F4 key. Enter. And now if we autofill, it should work now. All right, so there we go. So 1000 is closest to, so 1100 and 1200 are closest to 1000, so they both get $20 for regular bonus. You can see that the rest is correct. But how, let's test our if function. If we change this now to holiday, so what happens? There you go. Change to holiday. 1100 now gives you $40. And 1200 gives you $40. So you can see that this formula, a function, is working. This is how to do the VLOOKUP range using the if condition. All right, so play with this a little bit and then meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome to Excel 2016, and in this lesson we're going to be looking at Hlookup. Hlookup is the cousin of VLOOKUP, the less popular cousin of VLOOKUP. They practically perform the same function, while VLOOKUP looks at the vertical cells for information. The Hlookup looks for horizontal cells for information. It's easier to show you than to describe it, so I'm just going to do that. So in this data on the screen, what you see here are book orders. For branch A to C, there are different number of books, genre or types for each location, for each collection. So what we're going to do is to use this section here to find the number of books that we have for each of these genre. For example, what is the number of self-help book in branch A? So we're going to use this table to be able to get the information. Okay, so let's do that again. Like I said, it's easier for me to show you than for me to describe it. So the question is, what function are we going to use? We are going to use the Hlookup function, and to get that, we click on the cell, in this case cell B6, where we want the function to be imputed. And if we go to the formulas tab, and there are a couple of ways you can do this, as you know by now. You can either click on this insert function here, or the one to the left, the big insert function, or you can use any of the other lookup reference here. For example, we can look at here, find Hlookup. I click on that. The way to do this is we have to identify, again, it's just like the VLOOKUP table. In the Hlookup table, we have to find the lookup value. In this case, our lookup value is cell B5 that currently contains the self-help. So we click on that, and maybe we should absolutize it with the F4 key. And the next thing to do is to get the table array. The table array is the table of text, numbers, or logical values in which data is looked up. Table array can be a reference to a range or a range of name. Essentially, this is the table array right here from cell A11 to G14 is our table array. Okay, it's where we're going to be looking for the information. So again, we have to absolutize it with the F4 key, as always. And the row index number is the row number in the table array from which the matching value should be returned. In essence, where are we looking for the value? Which value are we looking for? In which row? In this case, we are looking under self-help, and we're looking for branch A. So it's row 2, 1, 2. So click on here, we type in 2. Okay, and The next is the range lookup. The range lookup is a logical value to find the closest match in the top row. Essentially, do you want an absolute value, a specific value, or a relative value, maybe approximate value? In this case, since it's a database function, we're working on the database, we always look for the exact value. In this case, we're going to put 0 or the equivalent of false. So let's OK that. There you go. So from what we've seen here, using the Hlookup, we know that branch A under self-help has 180 items. Now, we can do the same thing for branch B and C, but we can also use autofill, which is what we're going to use at the moment. Let's autofill branch B and C. All right, as you can see, there's no difference in the value of returned output. So the reason for this is because we did not change the row number. Remember, the output, the value is gotten from the rows. So if branch A is row 2, as you can see here, let me click on this and bring this back up. If the row index for branch A is 2, then cancel this. The one for 3, let's click on this again. I'll bring in it remains 2. That shouldn't be the case. It should be 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. So here we change this and type in 3 instead. And we OK that and see what happens. So it changes to 75. Another way we can do this is to click on, let's use the next example for branch C now, is to click on branch C, that's B8, and then we go to the formula bar and find the row index, which is usually the second to the last here, row index number, and we change that to the next row. If branch A is row 2, branch B is 3, branch C should be row 4. So we change 2 to 4 and enter, and we get our 90. So this is how this works. It's as simple as that. Although the table or the data could be much more than this, still the procedure is not going to be very different. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, so meet me on the other side for the next lesson. All right. Okay guys, welcome back. In this next lesson, we're going to be looking at other functions that could replace the Vlookup or the Hlookup when they are inadequate. I'm specifically talking about the if function. This is a conditional function. So starting with the this section here. So let me explain what's going on with the table so we can all follow. Treasure notes bookstore Q1 expenses. What we're looking at here, we're looking at the different area of the company, east, north, south and west, and for each of these areas, sales are done in different categories. Okay, this is the category, IT category, telephone category, supplies category, and so on. And then for 1 quarter of the year, that's for 3 months, January, February, and March. And then we have the total expenses. Okay, so now here we are looking at different things. We are looking at what the average expenses is for each of the categories, for example, or what the total expenses is for each of the categories, and what the total expenses is if we are looking at both the area and the category. Again, this is something easier shown than said, so I'm going to show you as opposed to talking about it. Okay, so let's start with the total expenses because it seems to be a little more intuitive. So I'm going to click on this cell here. What we can do, what normally we could do, is to type the equal sign and then bring in the function that we use. So the question is, which function can we use in this case? Which function can we use if under category we're looking for subscriptions? Which function should we use to sum or to get the total expenses? If you say it is the sum if function, I would agree with you. So sum if, okay, we can do that, and then double click to activate it, and then go ahead and select the category function section. All right, but this is a tedious process. This will be difficult because we're going to have to repeat this process again and again, so it just makes it easier. So I'm going to delete this and then return to what we did in the past before. What we did in the past, we used a function or a command called the define names command. The define names command, we used that in previous, so we're going to bring that back again to make things a lot more easier for us. So again, I'm going to click on the cell, on the right cell here, under total expenses, and then I'm going to select the whole table by using the Control-Shift command, and then using right hand arrow key and then the left hand arrow key to make it easier for me. Of course, you can manually select everything if you want, but again, this is just an easier way to do this. And now what we do now is to go to the create from selection, so we can define the name by using these selections. Okay, so create from selection, we're going to click create from selection, and then the selection we're looking at is on the top row. That's area, category, and January, February, March total expenses. Okay, so it's not on the left side but on the top. When we did this before, we used the left hand side, remember? Check out the previous video, but this time our sections are on the top, so we deselect the left row column and click OK. Nothing seemed to happen yet, but a lot has happened. If you click on using formula, you see that these sections are all present here. Okay, now what we're going to do next is to click on the cell below total expense and then go to insert function by either by clicking on the one beside the formula bar or clicking on insert function, the big icon here, and find the sum if function. The sum if function, if it's not available, we're going to type sum if, go, and then it's right at the top, and if we click OK, it will be right here. So we get the sum if dialog box. The sum if dialog box gives us the range, the criteria, and the sum range. So the range is the range of cells you want evaluated. So the range of cells will be the category, right? Because this is the range of cells that we're looking at. And to get category, we go to the using formula and click on category. So what is the criteria? The criteria in this case will be subscriptions. That's what we're looking for. And what is the sum range? The sum range are the actual cells to sum. If omitted, the cells in range are used. So the actual cells to sum. Sum range is the total expense. So we're going to go to total expenses and click that. Okay, so if we click OK now, so we have the total expenses for subscriptions. The good thing about this is that if we change this now, let's say to clericals, it actually gives us the total expense for clericals. Okay, so that is how to use the sum if function. The next is to go to a similar function but slightly different. We're going to use the calculate the average expense for this category, rent category, or any other category represented in this cell here. So to do that, we're going to use the average if function, and to get that, let's click on the insert function again and type in average if. Okay, and it is the first one here, so we'll double click on that to bring in the range. So the range here again is, as before, is going to be the category that we're looking at. So we're looking at the this category here, and since we created name selection, we can use find category here, And what is our criteria? Our criteria will be cell I-20 that currently contains rent. Okay, and the average range is going to be total expenses. Again, go to using formula and click on total expenses. If we click OK now, it tells us what the average rent is for the rent category. The average expenses for the rent category. All right, so I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to go next to the next issue here. This time, however, we are looking for two conditionalities. In the first two examples, we're looking for one condition, an item under a specific item under the category, one item under the category. In this time, though, we're looking at an item under the area and also another item under the category. So subscriptions, in this case, under category, and East under area. So what is the total expenses for this? In order to do this, you're going to use a variation of the sum if formula. We're going to use the sum ifs. Okay, to do that, we'll go to the insert function and find sum ifs. If it's not shown here, we just type in sum if sumifs. Okay, and it's right here at the top, and then we'll click OK. Okay, so for the sum ifs is starting with the sum range. So what is the sum range? The sum range is the total expenses. So if we go to the use a formula, we click on total expenses, and then we have that. Just to make sure that this is correct, 2,550, and so on. Okay, so if we go to the next one, which is the criterion range 1. So what is the criterion range 1? The first one is going to be area. So find area. Okay, and criteria 1 will be East. That's cell I8. So criteria range 2 is going to be category. So we'll go to using formula and find category. And the criteria 2 will be subscription. Cell that contains subscription, which is J8. Okay, so if we click OK now, we have our information. The total expenses for the East area and for the subscription category is 5,865. Okay, I hope this was simple enough and straightforward enough. This is a very useful function feature of Excel when you're dealing with database functionality. The good thing is that if we make changes to any of these, let's say here, let's say advertising, and we click OK, it changes. It reflects the new information that we enter. Or under the area, if we click and type in not, it will change as well. Okay, so that is how to use the sum if, average if, and sum ifs function. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this part of the lesson, I'm going to show you how to use some text functions or features, as the case may be. Now, what I want to show you here is how to combine data that have been separated by the use of a form. Let's say, for example, you are a teacher and you'll be given forms containing names, and they are all the names and the other data are in different sections of the form, separated by rows and columns and things like that. Now you want to analyze this data, maybe bring them to Excel or any other software for analysis, but you want them together. You don't want them separated in different columns as these last name and first names are. So what you want to do is to use a feature under the formula tab. You go to the test command drop down and click on concat. Concat is the name that you want to, is the function that you want to use. Another word is another word for it is concatenate, but it's so much easier to call it concat. So if I click on this now it's going to ask me where is the text that I want to move over to this cell here. So the text, first one is Mario C5, and the second one would be because I want to actually, let me show you what I mean. The second one will be IV. But if you look down here under the formula result, it says Mario IV all together, one word. That's not what I want. I want the names to be separated by space, as it should be. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the quotation mark, leave a space, open quotation, and then close the quotation after the space. And then under test 3, now I'm going to type in the word IV. So first name and last name. Alright, so let's click OK and see what happens here. So here we go. Now we have first name Mario and last name Ivy. Mario Ivy. So the good news about this is that we don't have to do this for all the other names. We can use autofill to fill out the rest, but just for the sake of clarity, let's do one more. So again, we click on the cell we want the name to be, and then we go to the formula tab under the test command and find the word concat. Click on that, and now it's going to ask us where's the test that we're trying to bring over. So let's start with the first name. The first name here is in C6. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to make sure we have a space there between the first name and the last name, and we use the open quotation mark, space, close quotation mark. And on test 3, that's when we bring in the last name, which is in B6. If we click OK now, we have a Tacho Sam as the name here. So now let's autofill this. Now we'll get a better handle of it, and then we have all the names, the first and the last name together in the same column, which is a bit more analyzable than what you have when they are separated by columns and rows in forms. Okay, so that's good. You want to play more with that, but let's move on. Now what we want to do is to use another test function that separates compound words. For example, we have this three-word compound word, notwithstanding. Excel gives you the opportunity to be able to separate these words into left, middle, and right columns or rows, as the case may be. So in order to do that, we're going to use simple functions under the test command. Now, if I click on, again, I have to go back to the formulas tab and click on the test command. Let's start with the left. If I click on the left, now it's going to ask me where is the test that I'm trying to separate. The test that I'm trying to separate. This is the test that I'm trying to separate right here. This notwithstanding. Where is it? It's in I8, I believe. So if we click on that, it's in I8. And then what number of characters in this test do I want to go to the left? So if I click here now, I have to count 1, 2, 3. So there are 3, starting from the left, there are 3 characters that I want to go to the left, not. So if I click on here, I have to type 3. So as you can see in the formula result, it tells me not. So okay. Alright, so now I have to do the middle. Again, we'll go back to the Formulas tab, click on the test command and find mid. If I click on that, again, where is the test? I8 is the test. Starting from where? This is where this is a little bit different. Starting from number 4. Starting from number 4 here, because number 4. We're looking for the word width now. So width start from number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to say here, W is number 4 in the number of strings of characters. So I'm going to say here 4. And then the total number of characters is 4. So the word here is width. So formula result width is okay. And then the last thing to do here is to get the rightmost part of the word, which is standing. So now again, if I click on this cell here where I want the word to be, I go to the Formulas tab and then I click on the drop down on the test command and I look for right. Again, where is the test? The test is in I8. What number of characters? This time from the right. Let's see what it says here. Specifies how many characters you want to extract. 1 if omitted. Now, so the number of characters to extract here is what constitutes the word standing. So from the right is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the number of characters is 8. And you can see the word here, standing. Okay. So that is how to use some of these test functions. There's so many other things that you can do here that I'll encourage you to play with on your own. You can, for example, change text to uppercase or lowercase, or you can search for text and just play with these things a little bit. It's easier when you play with them to become familiar with the features. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson. Welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we're going to look at the use of the what-if analysis, and specifically, we are going to be looking at the use of the scenario manager. To get to the what-if analysis, you go to the Data tab, and on the right-hand side, under the Forecast command group, you'll see the what-if analysis. And if you click on the drop-down beside it, you see different commands, including the scenario manager. If you click on that, you bring up the scenario manager dialog box. Now, before we create scenarios, let me explain what's going on the screen, the data that you're looking at. This is Treasury Notes, a global sales projection for different global regions: New York, Toronto, Lagos, and London. The idea here is that for each of these sales growth prediction, for example, New York 3.3%, Toronto 2.3%, Lagos 4.3%, and London 1.1%, any change in each of these will affect the overall yearly growth or sales projection right here. Okay, so for example, if we increase Toronto to, let's say, 6.3%, obviously that will affect overall growth for the entire global sales projection. So now, much ado about talking, let's actually see what we're talking about. If we click on the add scenario here, we can indicate which scenario we want to create by typing a scenario name. Let's call this the Toronto expansion and the cell that we're going to change represent the cell that we are going to increase the percentage point of predicted growth. So let's delete that, and we are looking at Toronto predicted sales growth, which is in cell C12. We click on that to indicate it, and then we can put a comment here and say expansion of Toronto market through advertising and increase in sales staff. Okay, so now if we click OK, you are going to see some sort of a change. Now we can actually increase our percentage point to, let's say, from 2.3% for Toronto to 6.3 for Toronto by clicking the OK button here. Okay, so here is the moment of truth. If we click on show here, it is going to reflect the new change, which is 6.3 as opposed to this 2.3 that you see here. So I'm going to click show, and then you see that. All right, you see the change there. So it is now 6.3, and the yearly total is now $1,346,194.42, if I can pronounce my numbers. Okay, so there you have it. So let's make another change for effect, add, and I'm going to increase the, I'm going to call this the Lagos expansion, and the cell that we need to change is cell C13, and our comment will be expanding the Lagos market by increasing staffing level. How about that? All right, and we'll go to the next. If we click OK, it takes us to the next step where we actually have to make the change. So right now it is at 4.3% predicted sales growth. Let's increase that to let's say 9.3%. Okay, so if we click OK now, first we have to click on the Lagos expansion scenario manager, and then we click show. You can see the change here. Now it is $1,374,894.03. So that is how to make this, use Excel to make this sort of forecast. The last thing we want to do is what happens if we add a scenario where all the regions, all the markets are changed. Let's do that. Let's click on add, and let's say we are going to hire new managers for all the regions. So we'll say new regional managers. Okay, and which cell are we changing? This time around we are changing all of them, so we select all of them. Okay, and comment, we just say hire new and more competent regional managers. Okay, so now if we click OK, we can actually make the changes here. So we're going to change each one of them by changing the numbers here. So the first value here is New York, which is 3.3%. Let's change that to 6.3%. And the second one is Toronto, which is 6.3%. Let's change that to 9.3%. And the third one is Lagos. Lagos was originally 3.3%, I believe, 4.3%, I believe. So we are going to change that to let's say 8.3%. And London, which is 1.1%, is going to be changed to 4.1%. Okay, so if we click OK now, if we select the new regional manager's scenario, we can actually show the difference of what happens with all these changes that we just made. So let's click on that, and you can see right here there is a significant increase in terms of our yearly total. All right, so here we have the yearly total of $1,413,555.03. All right, so that is how this is done. In order to see this in a snapshot, to see how everything will show, we can do that by clicking on the summary tab here, and then making sure this is selected, and then clicking on the scenario manager right here, because that's the type of report that we want, and then clicking OK. So by doing that, we can actually see what the different scenarios will give us. Okay, so here are the numbers for each of the scenario expansion that we made. Take a look at, you can see that the increase in Toronto market produces about 1.4 million, and the Lagos market expansion a little bit more than that, and then the new regional managers hiring was a little bit less. So all in all, it looks like the Lagos expansion model produces more for us than hiring new managers or increasing the Toronto expansion market. So the point is, you can see how changing these sort of scenarios can give you a snapshot of what to expect if that is actually put into practice, all other things obviously being considered. Okay, so thank you for watching this this video. I will see you play with this a little bit as usual and get your hands a little bit refined, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the use of the data table in a continuation of the what if analysis. In the previous video, we did use the scenario manager, which is also part of the what if analysis. So in this video, we're looking at the data table. They're sort of similar. They are asking what if. For this video, we are asking what if our interest rate changes? How will that affect our credit card payment plan? In the top here, we have our current balance of $7,000 and the interest rate is 16.2%. The projected payment period is for 36 months, that's 3 years. Now, that's clear. What is not clear is what happens if our interest rate, for example, skyrockets to 22% or 22.5% and so on and so forth. That is a question we can ask, what if? Another way we can ask this question is, what if we have our interest, what if we want to know what our interest projection would be for different monthly scenario? In this case, we're looking at only 36 months, but down here in this second example, we're looking at different number of months, 190 months, 240 months, 360 and 420 months. What happens then if we stretch our payment within this period? at this specific interest rate. If we stretch our payment for our $7,000 credit card balance at 22% for 190 months, 240 months, 360 months, or 420 months, how much are we going to be paying? I hope that's clear enough. And the other example is looking at it from the other perspective. If we have this number of months, 12, 24, 36, up to 84 months, what would be the interest rate for each of these monthly projection? Okay, so let's talk less and actually do something. In order to get to the what if analysis and the data table, as you remember from the last video, if you haven't seen it, please go back and check it. Click on the data tab, and on the right hand side where we have our forecast command group, you will find the what if analysis. Click on the drop down and click on data table. This little table here, let's bring it up here, appears. So right before we do that, let's cancel this. We needed to select the table that we want to ask the question of. So now that I've selected the table, I can now go to the drop down here under the what if analysis and click on data table. So there are two cells here. So the first cell is the column input cell and the row input cell. The column input cell is useful in this sense because we're only looking at a simple one item, so to speak, analysis. We are only asking what would be the payment if our interest rate changes, and nothing else, just the interest rate. Or the results of the change of the interest rate will be entered under the column right here. So in that case, we are only selecting interest rate from our formula table here. So let's click on interest rate, and if we click OK now, you see that we have all our answers. When we were paying 16.2% at 7,000 loan for 36 months, our interest rate was only at $246.79. When that interest rate increases to 22%, we start paying $267.33. At let's go down here. At 25%, it is $278.32. You can see how depressing this can be if you have interest, if you have credit card balance, if you carry any credit card loan balance. All right, so I'm sorry, see, we're going to get more depressing when we look at if the payment is stretched out over time. This time around, we're only looking at you being able to pay the credit card loan for within 36 months. What happens if it's more than that? All right, so let's look at that. Again, we are going to select the table, and we're going to go to the data tab and find the what if analysis and click on our data table. This time around, we're going to need to fill these two cells, the row input cell and the column input cell. In this case, the row input cell would be these, the months. So right here, all right, and that will be 36, and the column input cell will be the interest rate, and that will be right here, which is cell C4. Okay, so the row input cell is cell C5, which contains the month, and the column input cell is cell C4, which contains the interest rate. So if we click OK now, we fill the entire table with what if scenarios, what if analysis. What if our interest rate changes for 190 months and it becomes 22%? We'll start paying $132.53. As you know, the longer you take to pay, the the lower the monthly interest is. However, over the long term, you are paying more to the interest, paying more to the credit card providers, but your monthly interest will reduce, as you can see here. So even if you pay 25%, if you are paying an interest rate of 22% and you stretch it over 420 months, which is about 35 years, your payment will reduce to $128.40. So it is the same if you go across the board, because you're stretching it over a long period of time. You pay, even if your interest is higher, your monthly payment is reduced. However, as you know, that the credit card company will benefit more in the long run, because your interest overall that you pay to them will be more over time. Okay, so let's take the other example now, which is the other way around. If we select this table here and go to our data tab and find data table, here we are looking to see how the number of months will affect our payment. So the input cell will be the column input cell, and it's going to be 36 months. Okay, if we click OK, we see what the payment here is. Okay, so here we go. If you look at the table here, keep an eye on 36 months. You see that it is not very different from what we have here. At 36 months, the interest rate was $246.79. It is the same here, $246.79. But if we look at the other changes, if, for example, we change the interest, we change the monthly period, the payment period to 12 months, you can see the change here. Because the period is shorter, you're making only 12 payments, I suppose, if you pay monthly. Then you see that your payment will increase to $635.78. The more you stretch it out, the more you increase the number of months, the smaller it becomes. Okay, so let's do the last one here using 2-point data here. So I'm going to select the table as usual, go to the data tab, find the what if analysis command, and click on the drop down menu to find the data table. So we're going to do again what we did here. The column cell is going to be the months, so click on cell C5 here, and the row input cell is going to be the interest. So again, we click on cell C4. All right, so click OK, and then you're going to have these changes here. All right, so the higher the interest rate here, right here we have our interest rate at 17%, 14.5%, 19%, and 19.5%. Even if the interest rate is higher here, for example, you see that the monthly payment is lower because the duration of payment, 84 months, is way higher. So yeah, play with this a little bit and take a look at the table, and then meet me on the underside as usual. I think for this series we just have one more to go. The next video we're going to be dealing with automating certain functions in Excel using the macro function. All right, thanks for watching this video. I will see you on the other side. Hi there, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson we are going to look at using the solver add-in tool. Right from the bat, this function or this tool does not come with Excel, so it has to be installed. Before I do the installation, before I show you how to install this add-in or add-on, as it is called in some cases, let me explain what's going on with the data here. At this moment, Treasure Notes is offering bubble tea, and they are selling at this cost for mango slush, pineapple shake, strawberry banana, honeydew smoothie. And we have been given parameters here on what to solve. That's why we need a solver tool, right? So the client is paying per item. They are asking us to calculate the highest total cost we could sell the treats for, could sell this bubble tea for. So this is what we're looking for. We are looking to calculate this cell here, cell D8. What is the highest total cost we could sell these treats for? So, okay. So in order to do that, we have to get a quantity for each of these items, and then that will calculate the cost for us. But we could do this manually, but honestly, I'm not a math person, and I know many of you watching are not either. And even if we are, it may take a little bit of time. Why not ask Excel to do it for us? So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's go get the solver tool. As I said, does not come with Excel from the box. So in order to get a solver tool, we are going to go to File, Options, and then go to Add-ins. From there, we'll go down to the bottom of this dialog box and click on where it says Manage Excel Add-ins. Click on Go and select Solver Add-in before you click OK. Okay, so by following that process, if we go to the Data tab, we'll see the solver tool at the extreme right hand side of the Data tab. So if we click on that, let's click on to bring it up, and this gives us the solver parameters to complete, so that Excel can actually calculate the question for us. So what is the question again? Calculate the highest total cost we could sell the treats for. So what is the highest total cost? That is our objective. Right here is our objective. Okay, so we are going to click on this cell here, cell D8, to indicate that this is what we want to do. This is our objective, and we are looking at the highest total cost. That is the maximum, which is already selected for us here. Okay, if we were looking at the minimum, we would have selected this section here. Okay, that's logical, right? Now, what variable cells do we need to tell Excel to change? What section of these parameters do we want Excel to take control of so they can calculate the total cost? That will be the quantity of all the bubble teas. So from here to here, from mango slush, pineapple shake, strawberry banana, and honeydew. This quantity here, we want Excel to have access and control over the quantity that we can sell. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to go to now we'll get to the fun part. We'll go to the constraint. So let's click on constraint, and the number one constraint is we need 500 bubble tea. So all put together, we need 500 bubble tea. So if we click add, and we are going to see the total number of bubble tea, which is this, should be equals to 500. Okay, so that's the first constraint, and we're going to add. So the second constraint is that at least 60 of each bubble tea must be sold. So at least 60 of each must be sold. So cell reference will be again to at least that is less than or equals to 60, and the cell reference will be this whole section right here. And the last constraint will be we cannot make more than 120 mango slush. So mango slush has to be less than or equals to 120, and the cell reference will be here. Okay, since that's the last constraint, we're going to click OK. Okay, so we're going to let Excel does its calculation, and now we're going to actually solve it. So what we've done here, we've set the objective. We've we've set the parameter as indicated here, that is the maximum or highest total cost of all the treats or bubble tea, and the variables that needs to be changed has been indicated, which is everything here, and the conditions or constraint has been identified. So the only thing that we are left to do now is to actually give Excel the go-ahead to solve by clicking solve. All right, there you go. So now we have our answer. So the total cost for we could sell the treats or the bubble teas is $1,395, and the quantities, because we said that we cannot remember, we cannot say it has to be at least 60 quantity for each dessert. So so we have 60 here, which makes up about a total of 240 in number, and there we go. That's what we have here. Okay, so play with this a little bit and download the solver tool, and then use that to play around and see how you can get better at this. Meet me on the other side, where we're going to solve a little bit more complex calculation using the solver tool. Okay, welcome back to Excel 2016. We are going to continue with the use of the solver tool that we started in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, please go back and find that on our channel. And so let's get on this. Now, to get to the solver tool again, if you go to the Data tab, and then you go to the right hand side, you'll find the solver tool. So if you click on that, you can bring up the solver parameters. Now, what are we trying to do here? So we have to look at the parameters. So here it says, it's never too soon to prepare for the next holiday season. To optimize shipping costs, the following constraint must be put in place. So we are looking to optimize shipping costs to these various for these various depots: Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And the shipping per unit is this. For Toronto is $2.95, for Vancouver $2.15, and for Montreal $3.10. So what do we want to do? What is our objective? So our objective here is to what? Each plant must produce at least 20 units a quarter to justify remaining open. But before we do that, we are looking at optimizing shipping costs, which means we are looking at the lowest shipping cost. So which means our set objective, which is here, is the lowest shipping cost, which is, but we're going to select the minimum. If we leave this as is without including the parameters or the conditions here, this will be 0. Obviously, that's the minimum, right? But we do have conditions. So first, which of the variables are we going to allow Excel to be able to change? So that will be this whole section here, Q1 to Q4 for the 3 cities. Okay, so we are going to select that. All right, so that's the first part, and then we're going to click on the subject to constraints section. For the constraints, to start adding the constraints, we are going to do what we did before. We're going to click on the add-on button here, and the first constraint is that each plant must produce at least 20 units a quarter to justify remaining open. Okay, so each plant, so that will be this whole section, at least 20. So so this will be greater than or equals to 20, and we are looking at each plant, which is this whole section right here. We're going to add another constraint. Toronto has a maximum capacity of 92 units per quarter. So Toronto, which is the cell reference here, all this Toronto, has a maximum which is less than or equals to 92 per quarter. We are going to add that. And Vancouver, select that, has 45. That is less than or equals to 45. Add, and Montreal has equals to or less than 55. Okay, so we are going to add that as well. Now, the plant production must equal the requirement for the warehouse since there is a short shelf life. So everything here must equal this. So everything here must be equal to the warehouse demands, which is this right here. Okay, so now that is the last condition or constraint. We are going to click OK. All right, so we have entered all our conditions, all our constraints, and the next thing to do, first we set our objective, which is the minimum that we need for the for shipping, total cost of shipping. And we have selected our variables, which is for the different series for quarter 1 to 4, this section right here. And we have added the parameters that's been given us here, these constraint parameters that have been given us right here. And now we are going to solve. We have solved, Excel has solved it for us, as I should say, and this is what we have. We can see now that the minimum shipping cost is going to be $1,517.15, and you can see that for Toronto, the quarter 1, they have to 92 units has to be produced, quarter 2 20, quarter 3 92, and quarter 4 75. Looking at this, you will think that because the shipping cost for Vancouver is lower, which is $2.15, they ought to have produced more. But the problem is that there's a constraint here with Vancouver that says that the max unit that we can produce is only 45 units. So you can't really do much with that. To some extent, and for Montreal, the shipping cost is a lot more, so it's understandable. You can see that the number of items produced are smaller than the others. And also, the other last constraint here was about the total units produced equaling the warehouse demand. So you can see that this is 160 and warehouse demand is 160, 75 for, and warehouse demand for quarter 2 is 75, 180 for quarter 3, and 140 for quarter 4. So this is how to use the solver tool. I want you to play with this a little bit more. It can seem a little bit daunting. I think the most important thing to note here is to pay attention to the constraints, to the conditions that has been set in place. That has to be entered properly for Excel to be able to solve it and give you the information that you need. In order to restore back to the original values, if you don't want to save this, we're going to click restore and we're going to click OK, and everything is going to go back to the way it was before, and I'm going to close this. Thank you for watching, and then we still have a couple of lessons to go in this Excel 2016 series. Please play with this and meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. With Excel, there are so many things that you can do, as we have seen throughout these various lessons that we have done. One of the most important things that you can do is to consolidate data. That means you can pull data from different sources and have them consolidated in just one place. In this lesson, we are going to look at consolidating data from the Toronto Sales Division, the Montreal Sales Division, as well as the Vancouver Sales Division. The reason we can do this easily is because we have similar structure for the data. Here we have items which are named the same: quality control, staff development, repairs, and other expenses. And the duration is from Q1, 2, 3, and 4. If we go to the Montreal division, you see that the structure is exactly the same thing. So is the Vancouver division. So this makes it a lot easier for us to use a consolidate function, which is located under the data tab and towards the right hand side. Here it says consolidate. So now let's go to the summary consolidation sheet here and click on it. Now we are going to select this whole section here, all the way from item, all the way from A3 to E9. And we are going to click on go to the data tab and find the consolidate command and click on it. So here we have the consolidate dialog box. Under function is telling us we can do a number of things here. We can sum, we can count, we can consolidate through average, maximum, and minimum use of the data. Under reference, it's telling us that it's asking us where is our reference data, where is the data located. We can find this by clicking on the browse and going through our computer to find the data, or we can click on this box here and then go ahead and click on the Toronto division sheet where you have the data that we are going to consolidate along with the others. So now that we're here, all we have to do is to click and select this whole section here, everything included, including the labels as well. And then we come over to the consolidate dialog box here and click add. Remember, do not click OK or close before you do your selection. Now, still leaving this dialog box open, we are going to go to Montreal and make the selection again. But luckily for us, the selection has been made because Excel recognizes that we are trying to consolidate data. And the only thing we have to do now is to add the Montreal Sales Division as well. And then the last one, the Vancouver Sales Division, has also been selected for us. All we have to do is to click add. Okay, now that we have all data points, all three data points, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, the next thing to do is to make sure that the using labels are selected appropriately. For us now, as you can see, we have labels in the top and on the left hand side. So, and that's what's selected here. So we leave it as is. If it wasn't selected, we just have to click on it to make sure it is selected. Okay, so now if we click OK, we see that the data have been pulled from all the sources listed from Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver and consolidated here under the summary consolidation sheet. So how do we know that this is correct? It's simple. We just have to do the calculation ourselves. If you go to, let's try quality control, for example, for Q1. If you check what do they have for Toronto, 450, for Montreal, 500, that's 950, and for Vancouver, 400, and that will be 1,350. So it's pulled everything together, and it's also giving us the totals for all the items. Okay, so I want you to play around with this a little bit. Again, what we did was to come over here and select this whole section, and then go to the data tab and find consolidate, and then we added all the reference points, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, by selecting them and then adding them, and then we're able, before we clicked OK, and here we have our calculation here. All right, so play with this a little bit and then meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome back again to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to continue the lesson on consolidation of data. We have created another set of data, but this time, instead of the data being uniformed as it was in the first lesson, in this set of data, there's a slight difference. It's not all that uniform, as you will see just about now. Now, what we have here also, we do not have like the structure created out the way we did previously in our previous lesson. So what we're going to do here is to do something a little bit different when using the consolidate function. So what are we consolidating? We are consolidating data from sales data for Ivy Mario, for Matt Stevenson, and for Andy Mason. Just a quick look at the data. It is product sales by these salespeople and how much commission they made. Okay, so we're going to try to consolidate that so that we can get the total amount of sales as well as the commission that they got. So as usual, we're going to start from the destination where we're going to consolidate the data. So now for this kind of data, we're going to click on the first cell here below the point at which we want to consolidate the data, so which is going to be cell A5. Let's click on that and then go to the data tab and find consolidate function. And as we saw with the other lesson, we can do a number of things here, including summing, counting, average, and so on. Again, we're going to leave it at the summing function. And the reference point, again, we can browse to get to the data that we want to consolidate, but we're going to use this cell here to find the data, which is what the reference point is asking us to do. So let's start with Mario. We're going to click on do not OK or close this. Okay, so let's go to Mario, and here we are going to select from the product sales commission down to travel books and the data on C7. Okay, so we are going to add that, and for Stevenson it's already selected and we're going to add that as well, and for Mason it's selected but there's an inclusion of an empty row here, so we're going to do a reselection of this to make sure we capture only the data, and then we're going to click add. Okay, so as we did before, the next thing to do is to make sure we select the labels as appropriate. If you see here, we have labels at the top and also on the left hand side, so we're going to click on top row and left column. Okay, and now let's do our thing by clicking OK. There you go. So as you can see here, this is actually quite simple. You see that the data has been consolidated. For mystery books, the total sales is $58. So let's make sure that's correct. So if we go to Mario for mystery books, Mario has no mystery books. Stevenson has mystery book, which is $14, and Mason has mystery books, which is $44, altogether giving us $58. You can check the other calculations yourself just to make sure that this is correct. All right, so this is how to consolidate data and include them in one place. If you I want you to play with this a little bit more, and as we did before, we went to the data tab and find our consolidate command, and we're able to select all the data points that we wanted to consolidate by highlighting, and then before we clicked OK. All right, so thanks for watching this. Meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome to Excel 2016. We are now at the final lap of these Excel lessons marathon. Now we're going to look at a process of automating actions that are tedious and repetitive. We are going to look at the use of macro. Macros allows you to automate processes that you repeat so much that it becomes so tedious. So let's get on with that. Macros are found under the developer tab. As you can see here, we do not have the developer tab, so which means we have to activate it. In order to do that, we right click on any of this section here, right click, and we are going to customize the ribbon. Okay, if we click on that, we bring this Excel options dialog box, something you have seen before. If you look to the right hand side, you see that these some commands here are checked and others are not. One of those that are not checked is the developer. So if we click on developer and click OK, all of a sudden we should have the developer tab, which we do right here. So if we click on it now, we now see all the commands that we have under the developer tab, including, wait for it, macros. Okay, so you can record macros, you can use absolute or relative reference. We'll talk more about this later. And you can look into macro security. Macros are based on codes, so you can use the Visual Basic programming code, a form of early programming code that was developed by Microsoft, to make changes to edit the code that macros are based on. Okay, so as you can see at the moment, there's nothing on the screen. I want you to take your time to sort of play with this a little bit, and then we can start to develop our macros. Okay, now that we have set up our macro, our developer tab, and we have access to our macro, it's time to create our very first macro. What we're going to do, as I said before, macros are used for used for a lot of things, but they're mostly used for routinizing or automating processes that are tedious. That's something that you repeat every day. So in our case, for example, if you look on the left hand side, we have morning routine. So first we wake up, make our bed, drink a glass of water, yoga, shower, and then we leave for work, or depends on the individual, right? So let's assume that every day we have to write this out, and this becomes very tedious, as you would expect. So we want to use macro to routinize this, so we don't have to type this out every day in Excel. All right, so let's do that. So what we do is we click on a cell where we want the macro to start. Two things first. Let's go to the developer tab. One of the most important things to note here is that Excel macros prefer you to type and not to click. So avoid typing, avoid clicking or copying and pasting and things like that, especially if you can. Don't play very nicely. Sometimes it depends. Also, again, depends on what version of Excel you are on. But most importantly, it's probably better, at least in my experience with my program, it is better to use the Enter key to move from, for example, cell P1 to cell P2. So in order for that to work though, you need to do something. You need to make sure the use absolute reference is activated by clicking on it. Remember we talked about this before. So did I say use absolute reference? Actually, by default, it uses absolute reference. So what does that mean? That means that if I place my cursor here before I start running my macro, my Excel is going to use P1 as the absolute reference point. So it's going to jump to P2 and then P3, something like that. It's not going to continue the trend of T1, T2, and T3, right? So but if you use relative reference, which we're going to use, let me delete all this. If you use relative reference, it is going to stick to following the trend of using going one step to the bottom if you use the Enter key. I hope I haven't confused you. All right, so let's do that. Let's click on the use relative references to make sure that's activated. That's the first thing to do. Don't forget, it's better to type and to use your Enter key to move from one step to the other, which we're going to do. And the next thing to do now is to actually start recording your macros. All right, so in order to record macros, there are two ways you can do that. The first way is to click the button that says record macro. And the second one is if you go to the bottom left hand corner, you see a button there that if you put your cursor on it, say no more macros are currently click to begin recording a new macro. So in order to start recording, you can click on this icon here to start recording your macro. So let's use the top one for now. Okay, so before we start typing, it's going to ask us to name our macro. How about we call it money routine? I forgot to tell you that macros do not like spaces, so you can either have them together or use underscore to join the words together. And where do you want to store the macros? By default, it stores in this workbook, but you can store anywhere else. For example, create a new workbook or personal macro workbook if you have one. It also asks for a shortcut key. We're not going to do that here. And it asks for a description. We can just call it itemizing is that with an S or with a Z? Itemizing morning routine before work. Okay, so we're going to click OK now, and then we have started recording. Anything we type now is going to be recorded. So let's do what we said. Morning routine. Wake up. Make bed. Drink glass of water. Yoga. Shower. And then leave for work. Okay, so we've done all we can and we've typed out our morning routine. The next thing to do now is to either click the stop recording button here, or go down to click stop recording. So let's use the bottom one now, the bottom icon now. Click, and we have stopped recording. Okay, so now what's next? The next thing is, how do we find our macros? Where are they? First, let's delete this. Okay, and test our macro by clicking on P1. If we go under the developer tab again on the right hand side, you see macros. If we click on that, you'll see our macro. So there are a couple of things we can do here. First, we can run a macro, we can step into it, we can edit it, we can even delete it. There are more options if you click here. But for now, let's just run the macro. Let's click on it and click run. And there you go. It is right there. Let me play that one more time. Macros, run. Okay, so that is how to create macros and how to run it. There's more on macros coming up, so stick with me and meet me on the other side. Okay, so the next step to look at here is how we can make changes, if we have to these items or to our macros. So let's delete this, delete that, and then go to macros. And instead of running a macro now, what we want to do is to step into it. By stepping into it, we are able to bring up this Visual Basics, this Visual Basic programming platform that allows us to make some changes here. We can deactivate certain part of these codes from running. For example, let's say we don't leave for work. Let's say after breakfast and get dressed and all of that, we work from home. We don't leave, right? So, and therefore we want to deactivate this cell here that says leave for work. So if you notice very carefully, you see that there is a pattern to this code right here. I'm not a coder, and I'm sure many of you are not, but if we look carefully, we'll see that there is a pattern here. For example, select active cell money routine, which is the first line of item that we wrote, and then the next offset one means go down to the cell below, one step below, and then we have wake up. Offset one again, we have make bed. Offset one again, we have drink glass of water. So like that, until that's how we typed, if you remember. So now, if we need to, if you look here, this sort of green color test, you see that there are apostrophes before them, and also in certain empty space. These apostrophe, also called comments in Excel, are used to represent lines of code that you don't want to appear when you run your macro. If you notice, itemizing money routine before work was a comment, right? It was a comment we entered in the macro, but when we run it, we don't see this. Okay, so if we need to deactivate any of these items, whether yoga, let's say we don't do yoga anymore, right? We don't want that to run in a macro. We can deactivate it by clicking beside it and put a comment. But for now, let's assume we don't leave for work, and we are going to deactivate that. All right, so we're going to go to that line that says leave for work and click right here, and then click the apostrophe. Okay, and as you can see, it changes to the green color, which means it's been deactivated. Now, how do we get back to Excel to see if this works? The way to do that is to click this button here. If you notice, we are under break, which means we are not necessarily running under Excel. So to get back to that, to get out of this break, we're going to click this button right here that says continue. So if we click on that, the break disappears, and now we can go to the left hand side and click on view Microsoft Excel, or use the alternate plus 11F key. So let's click on the Excel icon, and this brings us back here. If you notice now, leave for work is gone. So I'm going to delete this now, so we can run our macro again and see what happens on macros, and then run. As you can see, leave for work is no more there. So that is how to deactivate or remove a certain part of your macros. Now that the question is, why didn't we just delete it? Well, you could, but the problem is with codes, as some of you coders know, it's not really a good idea to delete codes that you're not necessarily familiar with, or you don't know how it will impact the rest of the code. So the best thing to do is to first of all deactivate it. If you see that it works and it doesn't break your code, then you can deactivate it. Okay? Okay, so our next step is to make changes to an already created macro. Let's say, for example, this looks very dull. It doesn't look very interesting at all. So as you know, the way to make it a little bit more interesting is to format it. Maybe change the color a little bit, increase the font size and things like that. So we're going to do that. We're going to click on the first one here, and we're going to go to, or we can start recording now, and then we are going to create, we're going to call this format my underscore again macro. Okay, and maybe now we can use a shortcut, but before you select a shortcut, it's important for you to remember not to use something that you use all the time. For example, you don't want to use Ctrl+C because that's something that you use to copy, or Ctrl+Z for undo, things like that. Those sort of regular shortkeys I use all the time should not be used here. So how about maybe we use Ctrl+M? Okay, I think that makes sense. I don't think I use that a lot. So Ctrl+M for running this particular macro. We are going to leave this store macro in this workbook as usual, and our description is going to be formatting my first macro. Okay, something like that. All right, and now we click OK. So now we are live. We can start recording now. So let's go to the home tab, and the first thing we want to do is we want to change the font size to let's say 20, and we also want to change, we want to underline it, and we want to bold it. Okay, so and the next thing to do is to click the enter key for the next item. That also we want to increase the font size to 12. We want to change the font to Bauhaus 93, and we are going to change the color to maybe let's say something interesting, and we're going to do the next one is going to be the same thing. Maybe start with changing the color and making bold. Actually remove that bold, and remember whatever you do here is going to be recorded. So change this to font 12 size, and it's called 95, and we are going to go to the next one, and 12, and color, and Bauhaus 95, We'll go to the next one, and color, and 12 for the font size, and the font type was 95. The last one, color, 12 point, and font type, Bauhaus 95. Okay, hope I'm pronouncing that right. But now we have make this a little bit nicer, so we can now stop our recording by going to a developer tab and clicking stop recording. Okay, so to run a macro, we are going to click on macros, and then click on select a macro and click run, and there we have it. We have a formatted macro being shown on the screen. I want you to play with this a little bit and then meet me on the other side. Sometimes it's easier to get to your macros in the quick access toolbar, and in order to do that, you have to make it visible there. So let's do that. Let's make sure that we are able to use our quick access toolbar to play our macro, because it can be a little bit tedious to go under the developers tab and then macros. Okay, so let's click on this drop down menu here and click on more commands, and under the popular commands tab in the left hand side, we click on macros. Now we can select the one that we want to include in our quick access toolbar. So we're going to click morning routine and add. Just okay that, and you can see here now that we have a macro icon here. So if I click on this, it should be able to give me my first macro. Okay, welcome back. We are going to complete the macros tutorials in this particular video. If you haven't seen the first video, please search for it in our channel page and then find macros, Excel macros. Okay, all right, now let's start by running our macro the way we did before. So let's click on any of these cells. Let's say cell L and go to make sure we are in the developers tab, and then go to macros, and remember, we have to run it in the format that we created it. We created two macros, but one was on top of the other. So I'm going to first of all run the first one, run, which gives me directly the formatted macro. But also, if I try to do that again, morning routine, now it gives me the very first macro that I created. So in order for it to get to the formatted one, I'm going to click on it, on the first one, on the first item there, and go to macros and then run the format my macro. So which is highlighted here, and I click run, and then that's run for me. All right, so that's how to run the macro. Okay, so what I really want to show you in this video is how to create, let's delete that, is how to create a button. So in order to do that, we're going to go to the developers tab and find the insert command, click on the drop down and select a button type. Okay, this is form control. There are different types under form controls, and there are different types of button under ActiveX control. Do not use the ActiveX controls. They are old legacy type that are a little bit difficult to work with. So let's stick to the form controls. Okay, so let's select the first one, button form, click on it, and then you get this sort of cross here. What you have to do now is to click and drag out your button, okay, and select which particular macro you want this button to represent. I want it to represent the morning routine, so I'm going to click on that and OK. So now it just says button. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We don't want that. Let's just call it macro 1. About that. That's intuitive, but it's better than button. All right, so macro 1, let's click out here. Now what we're going to do is to go back, make sure we bring out our macro for reference, button 1, run, and then now let's click on this to get our macro. Okay, all right, so there we go. That is how to use a button to run your macro. So thank you very much for sticking with us in this video. We've covered a lot in Excel, but by no means have we covered everything. This is something to get you started on your way to becoming very, very proficient in Excel. And I sincerely hope that you take this opportunity to begin to refresh and refine your skills so that you can become the expert that you want to be. Excel is a very, very important and versatile tool that you can use in so many areas of life, particularly in your professional life. Make sure that you keep practicing. Before you go, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Do not forget to like all our videos. This will help us in some way to continue to make more videos. Thank you for sticking with us. My name is Daniel Onaifo. You have a wonderful day.